Welcome to CCI Drive Time, the podcast for vended laundry distributors. I'm Steve with CCI, using your drive time to cover laundromat trends, payment systems, and practical topics you can use in the field. Today's episode, I had the pleasure to talk to Jason Fleck, who is the Senior Vice President of Strategic Partnerships over at LaundryLux, one of the major manufacturing lines in this industry. And I've known Jason for many years, and he is just a wealth of information, has seen a lot, has seen what works, what doesn't work. And we had just a great industry conversation, and I think you will enjoy it. So here we go, Jason Fleck. Jason, great to see you. How are you doing today?
Wonderful, Steve. Thanks for having me on the podcast. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking time out of a very busy schedule that I know you have. We just participated in an event that you guys hosted this past week in St. Louis, and it was a great success from all indicators of our team and the things that I saw certainly on social media. So, before we jumped on, we talked a little bit about it, but let's start, because I can't imagine there's anybody out there that doesn't know who you are for as long as you and I have been doing this. But
Likewise.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, but I think more so it would be really important. Why don't you just give us the 30 seconds of tell us who you are, what you do for your organization, and if you can remember, how did you get into this?
Yeah, that's a great question. Like anything, it was a slow evolution of things, but it started off as a factory rep for a brand that, when I got started in the business, was very little known, and was a big part of helping that brand become more of a household name in the industry, and put a lot of years in there, and then came to LaundryLux in 2020 for a big opportunity to do something. And there was somewhat of a glass ceiling at my former employer and I think it was interesting because you wear a lot more hats, smaller organization, but also really more a distributor in the sense of than a manufacturer, and so a lot more in common with probably Laundry Concepts than my former employer. So it was very interesting, and the strategy was exciting, and it reminded me of the stuff I loved when the other brand was young, and so I was like, well, we can. I know what to do with this, and so there was a lot of freedom given to me at LaundryLux to do that. And one of the freedoms that was given to me really in sometime in 2025 was to write out what I wanted to do. And I had just gone on the road a little bit to see what we were actually doing out there. And I attended a bunch of shows, and like we were kind of saying, I was disappointed in what I had seen. And in my mind, I thought, well, I know what this should look like. I know what I want to see when I come to these things. And part of it is just years of going around the country, working with the biggest distributors, seeing the best of what they do, combining all those elements, and as many as I can. I still would argue there are some distributors that just probably do it even better. But I putting that together into something, and bringing it to an audience that's somewhat underserved in some markets, and in some markets it's maybe a little more overserved, and seeing what happens there. That's been the fun of the Laundry Summit as of late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just to kind of circle back on that, I think what I have noticed is you guys have been continuing to be really persistent, and I'd say consistent is a better way. Obviously you all have to be persistent in sales, but the consistency that you guys have put on is probably attributing to the popularity that I think you're starting to see in your attendance, because I think as well as anybody how hard it is to get somebody to show up to an event like this. And you guys are really doing a great job. And I'd love to, kind of pick your brain just for a second. Like, what does it take to get investors and store owners to show up to these events? What are you finding that it takes to get them to show up?
Um, I think you nailed it. Consistency. Um, I had a great distributor once tell me that I was going to one of the first shows he had ever done in a new market, and he was like, "You just got to keep doing it. You just got to be
Yeah.
consistent. It's going to start off small, and it's going to start and stick with it. You don't give up right away.
Hmm.
But certainly also I would say the ads, the social media,
Hmm.
the ways you get the word out is very important, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of different methods to do that, and I've tried them all, and I've
Yeah.
spent money on things that didn't work and money that does work, and now I'm kind of dialing it in. But I think that's the key thing, is just really making the sales team do a little legwork too. Never hurts,
Hmm.
you know.
Well, the
Yeah,
consistency is really key to that because it allows you to try everything and then dial in what actually works, so that there's really a method to this madness of that don't give up on things
yeah,
just because it didn't work well maybe the first time. And isn't that just sales 101 too? At the end of the day, is like, don't stop. I mean, you're not going to win every deal,
yeah,
but you're gonna learn from every opportunity, and then eventually turns into, why can't that be translated into everything we do? Shows are something that I remember. And our fathers, I've known you for a long time. Our fathers were in this
yeah.
business as well. I think both retired now, but we learned a lot from them over the years. And I
Oh
can
man,
remember my dad talking about the shows that they would do in the 80s. Okay. And they would sell over $1 million of equipment at a show. Like, that would be regular 1.5 million. It was like, and I'm like, I don't know what, unless someone had a deal pre-written before they came to a show, that just wasn't going
yeah,
to happen. That you just don't
right,
see
right,
that happen. I think some of the
yeah,
expectations have changed for the events now. We're looking for, we certainly would love to sell $1 million worth of equipment. That doesn't happen every event. But I think what has happened, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, because you've seen the evolution of
mhm,
manufacturers and distributors and how things have changed over the years, is that the reason why they could sell so much equipment was it was the only time you could get a special. That was the only a deal was only offered at this 2 day event, and that was when everybody kind of did the buy-in that said, "All right, we're all going to put our best foot forward." So if you were thinking about buying equipment, this was the day to do it. And it's really hard nowadays, because my understanding, and you tell me if you agree, is that you can find a pretty good deal almost every day of the week now if you really
yeah,
ask for it, if you're a good negotiator. So getting people to come to these things is been, I think, a real challenge, which is why, hats off to you guys for the attendance you've had. So, you know,
yeah.
what do you think
Thank you.
about that? The shows of the discounts, and now they're really,
I,
it's a little differently
I,
positioned now.
I, I think I look back to like what I was doing. Your dad's story is great because it reminds me a little bit of the first time I ever had a distributor tell me that we were going to sell a store at an investment seminar. And we
Hmm.
were in Mobile, Alabama. He took out an ad, a black and white text ad in a Sunday business section of the paper.
Yeah.
This is how old this is. It's like
Yeah.
2000,
It-
2002 or 3.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I went to the investment seminar with him, and we had rented this little hotel room, and we spent like $1,500. It felt like the end of the world in terms of like how much we had spent, because it was like that was a lot of money for a show back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
and, and here's the best part: four people show up. Four people show up. He does his investment seminar, and he sells the laundromat to one of the couples of the four people. And I thought, man, I was so blown away. And I begged him for a copy of his investment seminar. He's like, no, I can't give it away. It's secret sauce. But he finally gave it to me. And I actually looked at it the other day, and I was like, what's funny is some of the information still practically useful. It's just it's weird how little the business really has changed. As much as it has changed, there's some things that just have not changed. and other than the fonts and the graphics looking very
Yeah.
dated now, it was still very good information. And I thought, and it worked clearly on a very small audience. So
Yeah.
I think about the evolution of the show, and
Hmm.
the numbers are great to have, but you really just need quality. I would
Hmm.
have quality over quantity, and if
Hmm.
I could choose. But I also really want to not just do the old, like, when you go out to distributors and you have it in a warehouse, and
Right.
there's the there's a six pack of beer on top of a washer, and it's like, what do you guys want to learn today?
Yeah.
And that's the old way of doing things. And we're going to do a
Yeah.
service school, and it's going to
Yeah.
be cold or hot depending on where you're at, and
Yeah.
we're going to open the door and and everybody's in lawn chairs, and I thought to myself, that I grew up doing that for
Yeah.
years and
Yeah.
years and years. That's all I did. And I think it's got it. I look at ads today, and people are really focused on selling boxes,
Yeah.
and they forget that we're selling laundromats. We're not
Right.
selling boxes. So I think
Hmm.
the strategy is really just to earn trust by talking about laundromats as a whole, and all the ecosystem that's in it is all part of it, and give it's kind of like, you hear great operators say, I'd like to give my customers choices for payment.
Hmm.
If they want to use cash, they can use cash. If they want to use card, they can use card.
Hmm.
Sometimes I agree. Sometimes I want to take cash completely out. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, I get what they're saying, and I think shows are kind of also that way. Is like, because you'll have people walk in who are very fond of this combination of items in their stores, and it's not really I'm not going to talk them out of that unless it's detrimental to their business, which in
Sure.
most cases it's not. So I try to be as agnostic as I can in those choices, and present all
Hmm.
the options that are popular,
Hmm.
and really be a resource, and bring people with me. I don't want to do it alone. I can't do it alone.
Hmm.
I look at how many people we've had at the summits, and it's like in the 50s now of
Hmm.
speakers on all kinds of different things, and that makes me excited, because it was never supposed to just be, in my mind. I wanted to open the doors up a little bit, and not just be LaundroLux, which is probably scary,
Hmm.
but to do, because you don't ever know what you're really going to get. But it's been wonderful so far. It's been wonderful. The response we've gotten from the attendees is that
Hmm.
they weren't sure what to think, and then they showed up, and they were blown away. But for me, it's just like, how do I deliver on all these topics that are pain points for distributors?
Right.
I mean, for
Sure.
store owners. Sorry.
Sure. Sure. Well, I find it, you've said a lot there, and I think
Yeah.
where
Sorry.
my where no, no, it's good. I mean, it's all good stuff. I think where what I think has been really great, and it's really a shift, coming from a manufacturing perspective, from CCI's perspective, is the number of events that you guys are hosting, and really, I think you're leading to some degree because we're seeing events all over the place and in an increased pace. So, I guess, what do they say? It's
Hmm.
like, imitation is a form of flattery. I mean, you're seeing
Yeah.
events just kind of really escalate significantly. And so, companies like us and the others that you guys so gracefully include us in these shows has been a real interesting dynamic for us to get out there more and in a setting like that where everybody is out in this open floor and you're able to really I want to say the word compete, but they get to compare and you get to do it in real time rather than
Yeah.
have a conversation and then maybe on an email and then they email you and then they email the other guy. They can just walk around the room and have a conversation about the things they like. And I would imagine that, I've seen, the layouts of these events, and you've got some equipment there. You want people to look at your laundry equipment. Of course, that's what we're hoping
Yeah.
for at some point in the deal. But you can only have so many people in front of that equipment at a time. So having somewhere else for them to go and kind of socialize
Yeah.
and interact with the other ancillary things, I think is really smart. So,
Yeah.
again, kudos to you, and great for leading the effort that it comes, into having these events. It'll be interesting over the next few years to watch you guys continue to grow with it and see what the attendance looks like, and just how you discover what works and what doesn't and what makes a good show. But I think you guys are on the right
Yeah.
path. I'd
Thank you. I
love
appreciate
to,
it.
yeah, you absolutely deserved. I'd love to talk a little bit more specifically about distribution. That's what I started this podcast to try to help promote good distribution. And I feel like I was mentioning earlier to you, I almost feel like to some degree it's somewhat of a lost art a little bit, but yet it
Hmm.
doesn't have to be. And I think that one of the reasons is there's not enough resources that distributors have to help them get new people on board. You have your legacy dealers out there, distributors that have been doing it for 20 plus years, and they know how to do it. But when they want to hire someone, it's tough, right? To get that new
Yeah.
person up to speed and all of that. And so, you know, this is my small contribution to get them introduced to all the key players, some of the ideas that go into it. But it's, but as you mentioned earlier, the things that we were doing 20 years ago that were very simple, those core tenets still exist today. And if we just remind people what they are, I think we can help new people get into this business and be attracted to distribution and to get hired on. So my question
Yeah.
to you is, what do you consider to be a strong distributor? What are the attributes of what makes a strong distributor for LaundroLux?
Um, that's a great question. I really I look at it from, what are they doing to generate activity in the market? And I find that the distributors that stir up the most activity in the market tend to benefit. And so that's why, earlier in my career, I was big on blitzing because
Yeah.
largely because I'd say 75% of my distributors weren't really going out and working the market. And you could tell when you sat down and talked to them.
Yeah. And for
And
blitzing,
so,
it's boots on the ground is what you're saying.
yeah,
Literally get in your car,
yeah,
drive to every location and just try to walk in, right? That's
yeah.
blitzing.
And it was just like, hey, let's put an activity together. And like, I think back to like my history teacher in fifth grade, Mr.
Hmm.
Humes, one of my favorite teachers, taught me that, George Washington was an amazing general because he'd get on his horse and ride it right in the front of the battle. And I thought that's what I should do as a
Yeah.
rep. I want to be on the street, and I want to be knocking on doors with my distributor and really
Hmm.
and yeah, I kind of enjoyed that. It was part of, aside from all the other work that we did, it
Sure.
was the most fun of the job. And
Hmm.
and I found that we learned a lot from that.
Hmm.
We learned about not just the people that liked us who are going to show up at our shows, but the people who aren't in our camp, who might not show up at our shows. And I found that if we went, we talked to them and had a conversation, even if it was slightly like uncomfortable,
Hmm.
it progressed into something that they might show up at our next show. So
Right.
I but I think that's what distributors have to do to be
Hmm.
to lead in their market is and it is kind of old school, but it's very true. Yeah, maybe some marketing also would help. You know,
Hmm.
I think about how far marketing's come with social media and things like
Sure.
that, and there's always room to improve there for everybody. But doing some testimonials of
Hmm.
people that you've helped in the business, tremendous. There's a lot of bad information online about laundromats, and
Hmm.
that's another reason I wanted to do the summit is I
Hmm.
wanted to get real experts in the room and try to give these people, a resource that was at least, an industry resource that had real, teeth in the industry. And I think when you go on TikTok and you hear, I'm getting a laundromat for nothing, and and some of these things that are going around, and maybe that happens like once in a
Yeah.
million
Yeah. Like winning the
odds, but
lottery. Yeah. Yeah.
but but it's not really a great way to and people get started off on the wrong foot, that they don't need any money to get into a laundromat. That's not true.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
to yeah.
No, I just, it's just, again, you're giving me so much to work with. I don't
Yeah.
want to forget it all before I get through it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's just
Let me,
like
I'll take a breath.
you're
Just
a source of just of great information. And what I'm hearing
yeah.
here is I mean, the blitzing, the boots on the ground. I mean, to me, that if you want to use the really old school, it's almost like cold calling, right? But it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be a negative thing. A lot of times when you talk to young people today, they don't want to cold call. That they don't want to do that. But you know
Yeah.
what? But when you're an expert and you show up with care and concern, and you don't have to necessarily be selling every time you walk in the door. It could be just inviting them to an event. It could be just presenting information. It's really kind of the mentality goes in there, and that is, we talk about new people. The first thing you should do if you join a distributor, and obviously you're going to learn about your products, is get in the car and stop at every possible store, drop cards off, drop pamphlets off. Old school
100%.
stuff still works. And,
It
we
still
talked
works.
about the numbers game. It is a numbers game. Sales has always
Yeah.
been a numbers game. If you can stop on 150 stores, if so what if you only get 5 people that you can talk to? So what? As you said, all you needed
Yeah.
is one guy to buy a store, and that entire week's worth of work was completely worth it. So
Exactly.
you just need the one opportunity in the right cadence, and it's all paid for.
That's right.
So,
It's like baseball,
we
right? Like
yeah.
7 innings of complete boredom, and
That's
then
right.
boom.
Then payoff. Yeah, that's right. Then you get the payoff. Yeah, it's so true. And it's amazing how I think um, we've been separated from that a little bit in some
Yeah.
markets, and they feel like it should just happen. Like they should just
Yeah.
show up at your door and want to build a laundromat or buy laundry equipment. And it's not that. You need to get out there. You need to hear what people are saying. You need to tell them what you
Absolutely.
know. You need to share what you heard from the guy down the road. I mean, you almost become somewhat of a rumor mill, but it gives you a sense of authority in the market, that
Mhm.
you know what's happening in town, right? And so those
Yeah.
blitzes that you guys are doing is just a grassroots effort to get in front of people again, which I think has been lost in some markets for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, really really good stuff. So I guess when I think of distribution, I also think about being a consultant as much as a salesperson, and you
Yeah.
kind of touched on that a little bit too. And I wanted to
Yeah.
circle back on it, is offering customers options and what they should do to help them get off the ground, whether it's a new store or retool or whatever the case may be, is to be a consultant. And I wonder what your thoughts are on distribution having access to many more products than they've ever had. You have access to, I mean, I'll just talk about payment systems. There are more payment
Yeah.
systems at these events than any other singular like industry that there is. And there's so many options out there, but that's true of all of the segments. What role what role do you think the distributor should play acting as a consultant to help the customer make the right choice? Because there's one thing where you just open up a catalog and say, here, just pick out of the book, and then,
I,
but I feel like we've done
I
a little
love
bit of
it.
a
It's
disservice,
great.
right?
We do. I'm a big fan of like I think of, like, if you're on a blitz, for example, since we're
Hmm.
on that topic, I have new salespeople that I'm training, and they're like, "Whoa." And I'll follow them, and I'm like, "You talking this time?" And then we run into a
Yeah.
store owner, and they choke, and they don't know what to say. I'm like, "Here's your 5 minutes. This guy's busy.
Yeah.
What are you gonna say?" And
Yeah.
and it's like, and I say, "Look, if you're uncomfortable, here's a methodology I found that works. You start
Hmm.
really high topic, like, what are you gonna do with this store? Are
Yeah.
you gonna retool it? Are you going to add technology to it? Are you going to sell it? Or are you going to build another store? I mean, somebody's in
It's one
one
of
of those
those things.
buckets.
Yeah. It's going to be one of
Yeah.
those things. Yeah.
Yeah. And then let them tell you, you're not pushing yourself, your products yet. And and it's just a great. It starts a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and and a lot of times I listen to sales guys. The worst thing they do is they talk the whole time, and they don't listen, and they don't ask the right questions. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that starts a consultative approach that works
Mm-hmm.
really well with store owners.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And the talking is something that I think we all suffer from a little bit because it's somewhat of a over talking. What I mean, more listening, more talking. We hear that all the time when it comes to sales, and the new people way over talk probably out of nerves more than anything else. It's like
Nerves,
they feel like they
definitely.
have to keep going, but you need to take a breath and let them say something.
Yeah,
I and then
yeah,
the idea that I've also is tied to that, but is this idea of letting don't talk your way out of a deal too. Like it's like, hey, they're ready to buy, stop now. You just stop, let them finish the
yeah,
deal, don't talk them out
yeah.
of it. And it comes
A
to
hundred
this
percent.
this nervousness that comes along with it. And it takes real discipline to stop and just let
Yeah,
someone talk and take it
yeah,
all in, remember the key points, and then circle back to it. Yeah, it's that's awesome stuff. Um,
yeah.
I want to talk just a little bit about what you're seeing. You guys have made a huge impact in the markets that you're in. You guys have, I've seen some beautiful stores with your equipment in them over the years, and certainly,
Thank you,
you guys are excellent with the technology side. Your controls are, top notch. People
thank you.
obviously love the equipment, and I'm curious, maybe you could share a little bit. What do you think is what is working in stores right now? Like, what are you seeing as
Yeah,
being consistent in stores? Because that's what we want the distributors to lean on, is like, this is working, and this is what you should be considering. Is it heavy
yeah,
controls? Is it layouts? Is it what are you seeing
yeah.
as kind of some of the
I'm
magic?
sure.
There's lots of
I'm.
magic. Yeah.
You guys are great at what you do around. Your two companies really.
Yeah.
I've seen your distribution side there locally, and I've
Yeah.
seen some of the stores you do are very premium and beautiful, absolutely beautiful. You should be very proud. You great customers, great stores. You guys know how to lay out a store. I
Sure.
always think to myself like future, facing like what what is this store going to need down the road?
Hmm.
What is going to 15 years from now still be fairly leading edge, and
Hmm.
and and I believe customer experience is more important than it's ever been for
Hmm.
laundromats. So the old absentee model might still be out there, but as we see kind of maybe some generational transitions of wealth and things that
Yeah.
are going on, I see a different kind of owner stepping into the scene, and they're
Hmm.
more interested in a retail experience. And so I try to kind of, I like those customers. They're fun to work with.
Hmm.
They're interested in making their customers. Well, it's every customer comes to the door. It's the worst day of the week. It's laundry day, and
Right.
and and, and a great operator taught me once that my job is just to make them more comfortable, and that's
Yeah.
and have a good time, and you're never going to give them the greatest day of the week, but you could maybe make them a little bit happier. So and then people will drive further and pay more money,
Hmm.
and that's the kind of customer that you want, that I want, because they're also going to consider some of your premium options that you
Hmm.
want to sell, and you believe in them, because if you build a store, you'd probably be putting those premium things in your store.
Sure.
And the worst thing is when somebody just cuts all the corners and goes in as cheap as possible, and
White
you just,
box. Yeah.
yeah, I almost would rather just hand those customers to someone else to deal with, but because it's kind of like, man, at the end of the day, if you treat your distributor, if you don't take his advice,
Hmm.
I mean, if your distributor knows what he's talking about, he's he's really respected and has done. You look at like his install base, and there's successful customers around.
Hmm.
You should listen to him. You shouldn't. I don't want to like. You shouldn't treat him badly, bend him over
Yeah. Yes.
the rails,
Be fair.
because yes, be fair. Because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, I think. it's a long-term relationship you're going to be in with that distributor, and if he feels beaten up and taken advantage of, he's probably going to make some choices when you call on a Friday night and you need help. And I can't blame him. But be fair to your distributor. It's a great relationship that you'll have for a
Hmm.
long time, unless he messes up, or she. And so I think at the end of the day, like, the when I when I think of the importance of a distributor relationship, it still is very relationship oriented,
Yeah.
but we are seeing higher rents, higher labor, higher build out costs,
Hmm.
higher equipment costs, and the costs are really getting higher, which is why store owners are really looking at other revenue sources. Why wash dry fold has gotten so popular,
Hmm.
that it has its own show now. I
Yeah.
I you know you and I probably used to put a pro forma together, and
Yeah.
sometimes we left wash dry fold out of the pro
Yeah.
forma, you know, and we
Yeah.
would just see, does this cash flow without
Yeah.
wash dry fold? Now you got to put it in there somewhere,
Yeah. Yeah.
10%, 30%, whatever the magic number is, because these costs have gotten so high. So I think, that's kind of what's changing out there that I see.
Yeah,
Uh,
again, awesome stuff. And I think what I interpret you saying and what I've been preaching for a bit now is you're absolutely right. The costs are only going in one direction. We are not going to see costs, whether it be equipment, build out, all that. It's not going to ever go down. It's only going
yeah,
to go up. And so when you think about what the investment is to open up a new store, I think instead of saying, well, everything costs more, so I need to cheap out on as much as I can. Instead, what you're seeing investors like, no, I need to lean in hard to make sure this is the best experience that our customers use so that I can feel confident that when I build this and I spend the millions of dollars that it's ultimately going to take me to do this right, that they're going to come, that they're going to
yeah,
get the experience that they want, whether that includes the full service side of things, whether it just the finishes that you decide to ultimately put in, the technology that you invest in to make sure you give them that experience. And those are the successful stores. I think is what we're seeing here, not the bare minimum. Like, I'm going to get you a store, vanilla box, concrete floors, and the the most
yeah,
basic lighting that's possibly available in this market that is going to look like garbage in 9 months.
yeah.
In 9 months,
The
the store is
plywood
just,
bulkheads.
yeah, yes, basically
It's-
leaning on things. Yeah, that's right.
yeah,
There's ways of doing it that way, but it won't look good in a
right.
very short amount of time. So, amazing stuff there. Um, yeah, I guess I'd love to. We're a technology company. We don't hide from that. I'm
Yeah,
curious your thoughts on the tech that you're seeing. Obviously you guys have awesome controls. I mean, I know we're intimately familiar with your controls, the Compass
yeah.
Pro and the Claris Vibe and all that stuff. We're very familiar with it. Tell me how what you guys think when it comes to tech and how are you promoting it? How are you leveraging it in your sale?
If you look back like 15, 20 years ago,
Hmm.
there were tactile buttons you would hit, and the programming was
Yeah.
really hard to do. You had to scroll
Yeah.
through all these menus. You had to know all the gibberish of the screen to understand where you were at and how to go forward and back. I mean, that was like, today it's so much easier. People have it easier, man. I mean, a
Yeah.
lot easier. And what and what in some ways, I mean, simple was great, but I think the ability to completely customize the control and trick out every cycle and every icon is so cool, when you really sit there and look at it and you think about how far we've come.
Yeah.
And you can I had a guy who built a store in kind of a higher end middle class area, in Texas, and he wanted a clean out cycle because his customers were more, they didn't know who had just used the machine, and they were
Yeah.
more picky about the sanitary side. And so, and we were able to go in and create something that just rinses it out, and for a little bit, like a pre rinse. And you couldn't do that back in the old days. It would be really hard to do. So
Hmm.
it was a lot of flexibility there on cycles, on controls. The I mean, the Claris 5 machine's a great machine. It works with a dosing system. It can actually weigh the load, put the right amount of water in there. So if somebody underloads the machine, like puts 30 pounds in an 80 pounder, it
Yeah.
only put 30 pounds of water versus 80
Right.
pounds of water, and I'm not using the ratios correctly,
Right.
but you
Sure.
get what I'm saying. But the other cool thing is it can call for soap and only use the
The right
30
amount.
pound version of soap versus the 80, which is, I think, pretty neat,
It's
and
brilliant. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I think about, like, a lot of machines are dumb. They don't know what's really in there, and they
Hmm.
just do their thing no matter what. They drive for 36 minutes no matter what, or they
Hmm.
they wash like there's a full load in there.
Yeah.
And when I think about, like, those differences are massive when compounded across the store, across the
Hmm.
years that you would have that equipment.
Hmm.
It's almost makes so much sense that I think everybody will have a version of it at some point,
Sure.
like
Yeah.
axial
That
airflow.
imitation is flattery again. So you guys will be watching out for that.
Yeah,
But you know what?
for sure.
Again, to just
Yeah.
mirror what you said, the to me, the laundry business, when we talk about retail customers now that use laundromats, the machines they walk up, we use jar, that's a 20, that's a 30, that's a 50-pound machine, but our customers don't know what a
Yeah,
20-pound machine is. And so
that's
it's
right.
all about perception. Do I think my laundry will fit in that machine? And they get it wrong a lot. And
Oh
so
man.
why would
Yeah.
we want to have the machine run in not in an optimal way if they underload a machine? And we know it's much harder on a machine to underload it generally than it is to overload it. So putting 30
Yeah.
pounds in an 8-pound machine is not generally a good idea. But as long as you're giving them the perception of the quality that they need, and it's giving you some, helping the equipment be a little better, it's giving them the right kind of wash, not over soaping. You imagine all the soap, that detergent that would be in that. So all that's really good
Yeah.
stuff, and you guys have
Yeah.
definitely been leading the course there.
Yeah,
Um,
I
yeah.
love it.
Hmm.
I think about, like, I used to go see this distributor in Memphis, and he had a 7,000 square foot store. His little distributorship was in the back, and I'd come
Wow.
in through the front door, and the first row was the 80 pounders, and he had them, I don't know, 4-inch base or something. They were on a base. I know the
Yeah.
manufacturer tells
Yeah.
you not to do that, but
They
everybody
were.
does it. So I come in, and there's this little Hispanic guy there, and he's like, "Hey, don't you have anything smaller than this 80 pounder in the store?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's every row after this goes down in size." And he
Yeah.
goes, "I've never gone past the first row."
Oh
And I thought to
gosh.
myself, "Wow,
That
there you
tells you a
go."
lot about behavior and perception, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, that
yeah,
is amazing. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh gosh. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm gonna remember that one. Um, You know what? As we kind of get towards the end here, I'd love to have you whip out your crystal ball, because I know you're
Yeah.
really and kind of, what do you think? Give me, there's lots of things we can anticipate about the future of this industry, but think for a moment. What do you think this business? Give me any. You go in any direction you want. What do you
Mhm.
think is going to be different about this business in 5 years from now?
Wow.
Yeah,
Um, 5 years is a tight window. The other day I
it
was
is.
trying to think 9 years ahead, and
Yeah.
and it was like it's hard also.
Hmm.
I look at the popularity of wash, dry, fold, pickup, and delivery. I
Hmm.
see people laying out stores a little differently for that. Um,
Like
the
shaping the
design of a
store more around the
yeah,
the
yeah,
full service side, not just self service. Yeah.
yeah. I think that's the easiest way to say that that's going to continue to
Hmm.
evolve and really take place. I think the walk-in business will always kind of, or at least in
Be
5
there.
years, will still be the bread and butter. But I
Hmm.
think we'll see more stores designed for that other type of business, and it really is a different type of business,
It's
fundamentally,
yeah,
like, very
absolutely.
labor intensive
Hmm.
business. So I see people already, like, blocking off part where they open up the bulkhead, and there's a cool, like, thing that closes off part of the store, and now all the attendants are in that area. And I think, wow, that's a neat idea to adopt on but maybe if we were laying that store out today, we would do it differently, knowing that they were going to
Mm-hmm.
get so much Airbnb business in the future. And so
Mm-hmm.
I start thinking like along those terms. I see that. I see a lot more use of AI, in the store, not just when you're doing the marketing of the store,
Right.
which
Yeah.
has really come a long ways too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then further down the road, I mean, at some point, like more automation, which is not a problem because I think laundromats has always been about automation anyway. So
Sure.
some disruption there. Behind the LaundryLux booth at Clean Show was this robotic folding company, which was
Yeah.
I don't even think it's 5 years. I think it's still
Yeah,
9 years, but
yeah. But it
but because
started. Someone's working on
yeah.
it.
Yeah, I don't know that it's made any money yet, but at some point, we should keep an eye on that because labor is a big issue,
Hmm.
and if I had a crystal ball, I'd be looking at that. I think the machines need to incorporate, the manufacturers need to get on the AI wagon.
Hmm.
Really, there's a lot of things you can do there,
Hmm.
and I'm sure they're working on it. The
Hmm.
payments are just getting better and better. The interfaces, the amount of times you have to touch it, the information that, I mean, I listen to like Alex had since talking about information being important.
Hmm.
He's right. I mean,
Hmm.
when I listen to him, that's one thing that I noticed at Alliance too when I worked there is they were getting excited about the CRM.
Hmm.
And it's like one thing to have the information, which we're in that phase, like let's get the information.
Hmm.
uh but I think the next phase is what do we do with it. How do we predict things, how do we decide, make decisions based on this, more than just a dashboard. What does it mean? What
Hmm.
does it mean for me? So i
Hmm.
think i think you guys generate some really great reports. I've seen them, and
Hmm.
I've heard customers love them and show them to me,
Hmm.
and I think that side of the business is exciting. Tying the ecosystem all together and making it more connected is really important. We're still very fragmented,
Hmm.
and with technology, there's like 10 types of technology in each store, and
Hmm.
so there's an opportunity there to open up APIs and things like that, I think.
Yeah.
So, what do you think?
Well,
Yeah, it is.
what do I think? Oh, I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of directions to go here, and
Yeah.
um, I think the technology is going to evolve. I mean, there's no way that it can't. I mean, there's a tidal force that's causing us all to adopt some level of whether it be AI, automation, robotics. There's so many directions, and we're going to do all of it. I mean
Yeah.
CCI alone, but just as an industry, we are going
Yeah.
to have to adopt those things. I think the things that I think that are going to be more impactfully visible, just from an industry perspective, I think is goes back to some consolidation. But I think more about what we're going to see because that retail experience and the stores.
Yeah.
I'm seeing companies trying to buy so many stores right now, and they want to own not just 5 stores in their market, but we have these groups that want to own 100 stores, 200 stores. And I think the technology is giving them the toolbox to actually be able to manage it, because it's not the first time certainly in the
Yeah.
25 years I've been in this business that someone didn't say they were going to be the biggest laundromat operator in the country. But I'm not so sure we had the tools 25 years
Yeah.
ago
We
to make
didn't.
that a
We didn't.
reality. Yeah.
And that's why the clean cycles and
Hmm.
whatever,
Hmm.
did not take over the world back then.
Right.
I
Right.
think at some scale there was a lot of theft and there's a lot of mismanagement, and because
Hmm.
they're still counting quarters,
Right.
and I think today you can do it
Yeah.
with the technology, with the right, and we're seeing that too. We're seeing a lot of PE money come
Hmm.
in and
Hmm.
at least make a lot of bold promises that
Yeah.
they're going to do this and that. I still it's a very small part of our business still,
Yeah.
and that in the next 5 years, I think you're right, it will probably grow.
Yeah.
um so you'll see
To
roll
me, I
ups.
think what we're going to see there is my only thing that I don't know is whether they're going to lose interest.
Yeah.
Because when you compare the things that I think PE has gotten involved in historically, you look at all the business that they seem to have really made a major impact in, and we look at the profit margins that are behind that. Are they going to lose interest in the laundry industry? I don't know. I mean, but you could also see a significant increase in what the profits are going to be in this industry. That historically, because of so many small owners and operators, we see a hesitation to raise vend prices. You're not going to
Yeah.
see a corporate owned type entity be afraid to raise their vend prices generally. They're going to make
Yeah.
decisions based on what makes sense for that business surviving and being healthy and being that. And that to some degree elevates our industry in general, right? The more
Yeah.
strong the vend prices are, the more
Oh, it's
opportunities the
fantastic for,
investors and
yeah,
owners are going to have to make the investments that we're asking them to make. So, yeah,
that's
there's
right.
there's a lot of directions to go. Whether it's 5 years or 9 years, that's also up in the air of when we see some of these
Yeah.
changes. But hey, Jason, this is
Yeah.
actually exactly what I wanted to happen with this
Great.
interview, and this is the kind of stuff that I think people need to hear. I appreciate you sharing all this knowledge, and I absolutely
Yeah.
would love to have you come back, and we'll have other topics that I
Absolutely.
think we'll really get into. But thank you for contributing this. It's been great to speak
Let's
with
do it.
you, and I look forward to talking to you again soon, man.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me. That was fun. We'll
All right.
definitely do it again.
All right.
So,
Awesome.